Okay, the topic I've talked a long time ago on this particular book. If it's in backwards, I'm sorry, my phone puts things in backwards. But the book is called When Harley Was Won by David Gerald, also known as The God Computer. It was a 1972 book by David Gerald, who is famous as being a famous writer from famous. I'm saying famous too much, but he was very famous. One of the most favorite episodes of the original Star Trek was The Trouble with Tribbles, and David Gerald was very young, probably in his 20s when he wrote that screenplay, and it was always seen as a very humorous, comical, entertaining 45 minutes or so of the original Star Trek. Now, this particular book that came out in 1972, and again, I'm sorry it's appearing in reverse type, a flaw in this particular model of smartphone, why it shows mirror image on the front camera is beyond me. Terribly stupid, and I haven't figured out a way to reverse it. Maybe there is a way. I could possibly look again. It seems to be the default mode. Anyway, this particular book, 1972, I do remember hearing about the book because I used to read Star Trek books, and David Gerald wrote, I think it was The World of Star Trek, and I saw this listed as another book of his. I imagine it wasn't in our library where I tended to get a lot of the books that I read. So I guess I didn't see it at a bookstore. I don't remember it being I was 7 years old in 1972, so I wasn't cruising bookstores with a big wad of cash. Someone wanted me to talk about Johnny Wad, which was very famous in the early 1970s. It was John Holmes, who was a famous actor who was known for having a huge unit, and he used to play a detective in his adult films. That's for your jokey McFlokey. Okay, so in 1972, they conceived of a computer that was capable of matching wits with humans. And this is really not even the first book or idea that computers would be this smart. In 1969, you had the film 2001: A Space Odyssey, where the computer named HAL 9000 matched wits with the humans, and it was another HARLIE. This says HARLIE. That was the name of this particular smart computer. So, I mean, way long time ago, Isaac Asimov, in his sci-fi books, talked about robots with positronic brains that were superior to humans in many ways. So this idea of computers being smarter than humans is absolutely amazing how far back it goes. Where am I going with this? I've been 4 minutes in. I'm trying to keep these down to 10 minutes so that I can post them on Instagram. I used to post a lot on YouTube, but I don't get the hits on YouTube that I get on Instagram. We have got spring breakup on the river here. A bit of ice floating down the river. The river is quite high, but it is not at a flood stage, and I don't think it's going to flood. There's not that much more snow to go, and it has been a rather cool spring, so flood risk is still there, but I think it's unlikely. So, what am I gathering from all this? Well, it's very difficult to get humans to wake up to the fact that the Matrix movie was not sci-fi, it is a documentary. And different books have come out that are supposed to be talking about the future. And the famous computer scientist, futurist, inventor Ray Kurzweil wrote a book called The Age of Spiritual Machines. And he wrote another book called The Singularity is Near. The singularity was basically the idea of computers becoming as smart as humans. And it was always put in the future. It's very misleading, because a long time ago, computers became far smarter than computers that are known as humans. How do I know this? Well, I have to run on some facts, and I must tell you that every fact that you're ever taught is difficult to prove as true. But Google reports that our universe, or solar system, is 3.5 billion years old. So, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but let's go with it, just for the sake of argument. A 3.5 billion year old universe, and we know that our star is not one of the earliest stars formed in the universe. So, stars that were earlier than ours had even more time to develop civilizations. Now, here in 2019, well, I mean, they had analog computers in World War II. They were not electronic computers, and they managed to decode incredible things, the magic intercepts of the Americans and British that were used to decode the Japanese and German coded transmissions. They were analog. In other words, they were mechanical devices. Absolutely amazing. I don't know how they work, and it's someone who's very interested in computer history might look into that. But the point of it is that, that was, well, let's even go back to the end of the age of horse and buggy, which was the very late 1800s, so let's say 1900. So 119 years ago, people were using horse and buggy to get around. They had the telegraph. I'm not sure when telephone was fully implemented, but they had telegraph, so you could send messages from city to city through telegraph. And then they had messenger boys and girls. I think it was just boys. I don't think girls were allowed to do the job. But the messenger boy would come with a typed out message that came from, very far away. They laid intercontinental wires, so absolutely amazing what they could do with the technology of the time. I think they did anyway. I could be wrong. I'm not a know-it-all. I don't have immediate access to Google. I have to go look things up. But they did run cables for telephone, so did they do it for telegraph? Well, we can look it up and see. But, certainly on one continent you could send telegraph messages. Anyway, I'm kind of off topic. The topic is computers, and the idea is that humans were not the first ones to create advanced computer systems. Why is that? Well, go out at nighttime away from the city lights and look at the number of stars out there. And then look at your Google and look to see how many stars are in our galaxy, and look to see how many galaxies are in our universe. And the fantastical numbers are beyond a human's ability to comprehend. So, I'm just going to say that the arrow points in the direction that we are not the first civilization to invent computers. And I'm also going to say that these other civilizations that invented advanced technologies are still around today. And hiding from us, yes. We are here on planet Earth actually in a a computer run spiritual reality. I believe it's a combination of computers and pure intelligence that runs this particular world, and we were put here as an experiment to see what would happen if we restarted very limited intelligent life on an isolated world where the advanced civilizations could watch us and see how we developed, for the curiosity of seeing what would happen. So that is what has happened on our planet, and we are now at a stage where we are supposed to awaken to the fact that this is ongoing. Now, the question that comes to my mind is, are we actually organic, in other words, carbon-based biological units, as we are taught in high school and university, or are we computer-generated holograms in a matrix-like world, like, what Keanu Reeves experienced in the Matrix movies, or both? I'm not going to go with neither, because we do actually exist, so neither doesn't make any sense. But you will remember in the Matrix movies, Keanu Reeves was able to phone his mothership and say tank, and he would be removed from the reality he was in to escape from Agent Smith, etc. So in the movie, he was able to change the reality boxes very quickly. In our world, this does not seem to happen, except if you read the stories about highly spiritual beings. In other words, Tibetan masters or masters from India. Some other ones that, I'm not even going to tell you about Uri Geller. He's kind of old. It was like kind of a 1970s guy from Israel who could do things like spoon bending and maybe some telepathy. But these are the things I'm talking about. I've talked about them in many of my lectures. These spiritual gifts are called siddhis, S-I-D-D-H-I, and the siddhis are written about in the textbook called the Yogic Sutras of Patanjali, which is a very old book, but it's still in print, and you can read it to learn about all the different things that a highly spiritual being can do. And one of the things that they can do is teleport. So, if you're highly spiritual, you can teleport. According to the books, you don't need technology to do it. Your consciousness does it. If you're not as highly spiritually evolved as a Tibetan yogi or an Indian yogi, you could use technology. So, the characters in Star Trek that I keep going back to are not really highly spiritual beings. A lot of them are kind of military beings, explorers, not a lot different than, Master and Commander movie about, going on a sailing ship to the far side of the planet to see what was there. Master and Commander is expected to be an English gentleman and to be educated to that level of society, have ethical programs, but was sent on a mission primarily to explore and see if there's any good stuff that Mother England could use. So it was basically a mission to go and search for things that could be exploited for the benefit of the mother country. In Star Trek, it's not so much exploitation of other, well, not really at all. It's to go and see who's there, make contact with them if they're advanced enough, and, you know, expand the Federation. And it seems that the Federation, at least in the time of Captain Kirk, was still using credits, in other words, money. Although while you're on board one of these ships, they weren't charging you for food or room and board. Where do we want to go from here? Well, I think, oh my God, I'm past 10 minutes. Shit. I wanted to have a 10-minute lecture because I wanted to post it on Instagram, and I've gone way over. Okay, well, that's enough for now. I got to go make a 10-minute lecture for Instagram, but basically it's going to be a repeat of this one.